If you hear a tap on the door, make sure it's not him, the smiling man coming back for more. By Mike Rich 15. Have you ever laughed something off? It's an odd expression, I know. Whenever I hear someone say it, I think of a cliff, and on it there's a small tick that's scaling upwards. As it climbs, the tick grows and mutates until it doesn't resemble a tick anymore. It's something else now. It's some kind of ancient horror that's dug into the mountainside. Then the laughter comes, a wide expanse of reverberation that washes down the mountain like a rolling tidal wave. And despite how desperately that thing that was once a tick tries to hang on, the wave blows it off and into the abyss below. That's what I tried to do when my friend Dave told me about him, the smiling man. I laughed it off, punched my friend in the shoulder, slapped him on the back, deflections, dismissals. Nice one, I said. I'll have to remember it the next time we're all sitting around the campfire and it's my turn to tell a scary story. I continued to laugh, laughing it off, the tick hanging on for dear life. Only I didn't laugh it off. Not really. I tried, I truly did. I laughed and laughed all the way home. I was still chuckling as I went inside and locked my door. The tick, I looked back and I checked the bolt twice. 3 times actually. And I laughed again. But I didn't laugh it off. The tick was still there, growing and mutating. I went into the bathroom and noticed the shower curtain was pulled all the way to the wall. Was it like that when I left? I pulled back the curtain on the shower and checked for what? I really don't know. I laughed. Of course, there was nothing there, but the tick. My eyes kept darting back to the open bathroom door as the tap water hit my face. And I laughed again. Still, there was the tick. I felt my heart stop for a second as I swiped the fog off the mirror. It was only me standing there. And why wouldn't it be? There was the tick. When I dried off my face, I called my friend. He picked up on the 3rd ring. I blew an audible sigh of relief. Why did I do that? Well, because of the tick. I mean, why wouldn't he answer his phone? Hello, he said. Dude, it's me, I said. Still thinking that it's funny, he said. And there was the tick. Tell me again, I said. Why should I, he said. Clearly you don't believe me. I'm sorry, I said. I'm sorry I laughed. You know, it was really hard telling you that. Do you know how many times I've convinced myself that it's not real? That I didn't really see him. My therapist says it's something else, a coping mechanism my mind has created to deflect away from the real pain. And then, despite every instinct that I have, I tell you, my best friend, and I get laughter in return. What am I supposed to do now? He said. I know, I'm sorry. Just put yourself in my shoes. If I told you what you told me, what would you do? There was silence. And then a long, drawn-out sigh. I get it, he said. So tell me again. And this time I'm going to listen to what you were trying to say. And this is what David told me. To think this all started with the sound of a voicemail alert coming from my phone. Missed call, it said as I swiped across the screen. Caller unknown. I opened my voicemail and waited to hear who had called me, what the message was. For the first few seconds, there was nothing but a crackling hiss. I almost deleted it right then and there. What if I had? Would things have been different? My fingers were millimeters away from erasing it when I heard it. Her voice. Her impossible voice. If you hear a tap, tap, tap on your door, make sure it's not him, the smiling man, coming back for more. I barely comprehended the words at first. I was lost in the sound of her voice. It was her, I'm telling you. I know it's impossible. How many people in the world sound similar to her? I didn't trust myself at first. Surely I was projecting my longing. I replayed it. I replayed it over and over again. I tried to convince myself that it wasn't her. I really tried. But it was her. I swear on the life of every person that I have ever loved that it was her. I must have played that message over 100 times. I was desperate for some clue, some sign that I was crazy. Can you imagine that? I was doing everything that I could to convince myself that I was crazy because I couldn't comprehend what it means if I was right. I played it through my computer, trying to filter out the sounds, adjusting the frequencies. I should have taken it to an expert, someone who could have verified the inauthenticity of it. Let's just add that to the list of things that I should have done. The message, it couldn't have been real, right? It was my grief. It had to be. I was so wrapped up in the message that I didn't stop to think about what the words meant. Not until I heard it. The tap, tap, tap on my door. I would be wrong if I said I wasn't petrified at that moment. I literally couldn't move. My computer was looping for the first few seconds of the message, so there was this constant crackling hiss filling the apartment. If you hadn't called out for me through the door, I probably would have never even moved from that spot ever again. Don't you remember? I opened the door and you asked me what was wrong, why I was so pale. I couldn't tell you then. I made up some lame excuse. I guess I didn't convince you because you hugged me. You thought that was what I needed. We buried ourselves in booze that night. After you left, I wept as I deleted the message. I didn't care anymore. She was gone and that wasn't on her phone. Someone was playing a wicked, cruel joke, and I wouldn't stand for it. Then I saw him. The smiling man. It was maybe a month after that night. I was on the bus coming home. I try not to look at the other passengers when I'm traveling in the city. Too many times I've made eye contact with someone and inadvertently started an unwanted social interaction. You've always told me that I need to make it known to anyone paying attention that I'm not in the mood for niceties. I've never nailed that down, however, so mostly I stare out the window, headphones on, attempting to look as if I'm lost in the thought or daydream. I can't tell you for certain why I looked up on that particular day, only that I felt a sharp, nauseating feeling in my stomach, like going over a sharp drop in the road while driving. I'm convinced now that I had no choice, that my neck was being twisted towards him without conscious volition. Most nights when I'm stuck in the nightmare of that day, I picture a dying star being sucked towards the endless void of a black hole. The thing is, I didn't even notice him at first, like he was buried beneath a layer of something. I don't know what. It's so hard to... I don't even really know what happened. Even now, after everything, I have such a hard time describing him. It's that feeling when you wake up and try to remember your dreams. The thing I remember most about him was his smile. It was impossibly large. The corners of his mouth stretched all the way across his face, like someone had taken a knife and cut into his cheeks from ear to ear. His teeth were bleached bone white, and although they looked like normal teeth, I swear there were hundreds of them, stretching back into his gaping maw for what seemed like miles and miles. Do you remember standing on the precipice of that cave in Mexico? How the sun could only penetrate the first few meters, exposing the jutting limestone on the sides before the darkness swallowed up the light? You told me it was like staring into the center of the earth, like there was a hole in the world. This man was a hole in the world, and he was smiling at me. I know this doesn't make sense. I struggled a long time with it. Whether I had imagined this thing. Don't think I didn't consider the possibility that my mind was simply taking a horrific prank call and turning it into some sick version of reality. What did I do? I ran off that bus, that's what. I tried not to look back, but I was being pulled again, dragged towards the darkness, and when I turned around, I saw the back of his head through the window. Then it started to twist around. His body stayed facing the seat that I was once in, but his head was now looking backwards, at me. He was smiling. My phone rang. Unknown caller, it said. My eyes never left that smile as the bus rolled down the street, but my hands moved to answer the phone. Hello, I said. David. It was her. This time there was no doubt in my mind. I know it couldn't have been her. But Mark, it was her. It was her, and I dropped to my knees on the sidewalk. In broad daylight, with a steady stream of people walking around me, I dropped to the sidewalk, and I wept. It was the first time I had cried since I buried her. I could only manage to spout out one word. "Rebecca," I said. But of course she was gone. And of course no one answered. Because she was never there, not really. It wasn't my Rebecca. Mark, it wasn't my Rebecca. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Now the phone rings every night. I think I'll get rid of it soon. I can't deal with this anymore. Every time someone knocks on the door, I have to check to see if it's him, the smiling man, coming back for more. I waited until my friend was finished to ask more questions. More of what, David? I said. What would he come back for? For me, Mark. He would come back for me, he said. I heard some rustling on the other end of the line, and then the unmistakable sound of Rebecca's phone starting up. A few more seconds passed by as he accessed her voicemail. "David, what are you doing?" I said. "Shh," was all he said. And then I heard the sound of a computerized voice saying, "First saved message." There was static at first, this hissing sound, crackling, like tree bark thrown into a fire. Then a voice, unmistakably afraid, unmistakably familiar. "If you hear a tap, tap, tap on your door, make sure it's not him. Coming for the 4. The floor drops out from beneath me. Mark, I know what that sounds like. David, that's you. That's your voice. Mark, I never made that call. Never. It's not me. It's not the real David." There was more silence from me. "Mark? David, the night Rebecca died. I know, Mark, I know. My wife was there. I know, Mark. I was there. I know, Mark. You were there. I know that too, Mark. And Rebecca. Rebecca makes 4. 4, David. The 4. Yes, Mark. The 4. And you know what this means, right?" "No, I don't know what that means. I don't want to know." "You already do. It worked. Those books, that place. Something came out. Through the phone I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. David. Mark, I have to check." "No, you don't." "Oh, please, let me check." That all happened a day ago. Now I have to go check on him. But I can't. Not while someone keeps tapping on my door.